dear witchlings, my fairy friends, every single creative one of you. Thank you for coming here today and joining me in this video. So today we're gonna go into my studio before I went into our new transformation of the space in its like second or third iteration. And we'll have a little walkthrough and show you what I did in the space. So then after that, we're going to check out the little fairy drawing that I did, and I'll have a little conversation about the art supplies I used and some stuff that I'm looking into and all that good stuff. So let's get to it. So my studio is looking a little bit a mess, not right necessarily behind me, but over here, this hot mess. But that's because I am clearing a space for a new table. So here's the space. So I cleared everything from here. I had a tall shelf here, which I moved to my bedroom actually in the house. And this table was the one that was like over here all the way. And then that small table was the one I was working on. But I need more space for my computer and stuff. And I need a bigger working area. So I got a big table. So normally I go via Craigslist most of the time to try and find things like that cabinet in the back there that was a free find, and I painted it and I'm still currently painting all the little flowers on it. Yeah, so I am not happy that I had to buy something like buy a new thing, because I really try my hardest to live more sustainably, including when I'm buying furniture. Either I'll buy something that's vintage, antique, secondhand, or try to find something free or build something from the stuff that I already have. So this was not ideal, but I've been searching for a good 6 months and I haven't been able to find anything. So yeah, this is where I'm at, and I'm excited though because I'm gonna have this massive desk to work on. This desk I have over here, I like it, but it's not very big. I thought it was beautiful when I got it, and that was like treating myself. It's like a real dressman kind of table that you can put up, but it's really janky and really upsetting that it's so janky. Yeah, I'm really unhappy that I spent as much as I did on that table because it's very flawed. Yeah, so I am getting my table tomorrow. It's coming tomorrow and I'm very excited. So I cleared the space. All my stuff is all over the place, which gives me a little anxiety, but we'll have a brand new table to work on, and I'm very excited. Also, I'm very excited that I'm gonna have a little bit of wall space, which to me is something super important. I think most artists will agree on this, that like you need wall space, especially, like you want to put up stuff, some of the work you're working on, maybe some inspiration or whatever, whatever you might need. You might need the space even to just like lean on to work on something. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Let's see what it looks like when it comes in. My new setup. So I took the smaller desk and I put telescope legs on it so I can have like a return here, like an extra space to put my stuff while I'm working. And then I put the big table, the new table here. And I got rid of the shelves that are now in the bedroom, and I put my stuff down here because I knew there was space. And then I kept the long desk. I moved that one over from over there to here for my office. That's my office space.
crazy. It's like beat crack.
So hello lovelies again. I realized I recorded this drawing session with music on because it's usually how I work. I love music and I love working while I'm listening to music. I love doing everything while I'm listening to music. So I had to do a recording or a voice recording over this so you guys can actually hear something and not just silence. So I actually started working with these acrylic markers around the time when I did this drawing, I should say. So this is one of my first fairies with these markers, and I really enjoyed working with it. I thought it gives like really nice shading. You can actually blend really well because there's enough colors in there to blend. I think they actually have even sets that are just like flesh tones. I think they made it have like a light flesh tone and a darker flesh tone one. And I might end up getting those. I'm not sure yet. I'm thinking on that. But I really enjoy these. The colors are really vibrant, and I love the brush tip on it. I think these work really, really well. You can get some really fine lines with it, considering, they're pretty thick markers. It's funny because I don't tend to use the flat end quite as much, the chiseled end. I guess that's what it's more accurate. I'll use it sometimes with larger spaces like backgrounds, like in the video with my little fairy with the, not the fairy actually, sorry. It was the little space girl with the background with the kind of galaxy background. So with that one, I ended up using the chisel tip instead, which worked really well. And because I don't want to overuse some of the tips sometimes too, because I'm afraid of flattening them out, I will try using those for like bigger spaces, like backgrounds. Excuse me, I'm actually really tired because we had the time change this weekend, like the daylight savings situation, and it's getting really dark very quickly. It's currently 4:30 where I am now, and it's awfully dark and ominous also, I think, because it's going to rain. But anyway, that's a total sidetrack there. So I really am enjoying this wonderful little drawing that I did. I actually wanted to give it maybe to my niece who loves fairies and probably would love it for her bedroom. I am also thinking that I might do more of these fairies on like the on the nicer paper, because I do want to be able to have these available for you guys as well as possible original art that you might want to purchase. I'm actually thinking of making like a small series of them and doing some of the watercolor paintings as well as a series. I am sticking with my fairies, and most likely I will also go back to doing some plant illustrations, paintings, and some other whimsical, fun, fantastical art as well, other than the fairies. But for right now, we're very fairy centric, and I'm very happy with that. So I'm going to stick with that. I feel like right now they really have been connecting with me through my meditations and through just my everyday interactions with nature and with my garden, which that's part of nature, I suppose. Controlled nature, I suppose, in a way, but not, because I'm kind of a chaos gardener, meaning I don't necessarily feel like you have to like plant things in hyper designed or anything like that. I definitely like more that cottage garden feel, And I got off topic yet again because that's very easy for me to do. Okay, so let me talk about a little bit about some of the supplies. So the markers themselves are actually this brand called Artify. They're not expensive at all, and I got them on Amazon. They have this little chart that you'll see on my left there that is really beneficial to fill out, because if you don't, you're gonna have a really hard time figuring out the colors. And I think I talked about that in one of my last videos about these markers. And I think in general, markers, the color of the plastic on the outside never matches the actual color that you're drawing. I highly recommend doing that if you have any markers, and even if it doesn't come with that, with the little card, if you have any markers, I would create a little like visual aid for yourself to be able to see the colors. I mean, I do that now too with my paints as well. It makes it so much easier to be able to know your colors and know which ones are which colors by the fact that you have them hanging up right in front of you, and you can really then when you look at them, you can say, okay, so this color next to this color will go really well together. You can even pull the card off your wall and then just look at it against other colors, so you have an idea of what colors will lay well with each other, because that's something that I feel like is hard to do when you can't actually see the color right out of like the tube, for example. That's easy. So it's better to have that chart in front of you so you can really see the colors, because from the caps on tube paint or the caps on your markers, you're not going to really be able to tell what the colors truly are and how they're going to look with another color. So these markers actually are alcohol markers, so they're not like your old school markers where you could get kind of high off them or get really sick from them or have terrible headaches from them, or like me, who am an asthmatic, I cannot be around those markers or I'll have an asthma attack. So these markers have very little scent. They don't bother me at all. They're not like also like opening up a bottle of rubbing alcohol or anything like that. They're just, that's what their base is alcohol, versus what, I can't remember what the other stuff was made from, but it was pretty toxic, and I think they still make probably those markers, but for the most part, a lot of manufacturers are making these alcohol markers. What I really love about them too is they kind of work a little bit like a watercolor, which is nice. You can layer them on top of each other, and they have that kind of watercolor effect, but without, smudging or turning everything into brown. But like you can layer your greens, you can layer your blues to create beautiful, rendered, blended, objects, versus some of the old markers where they're really opaque and heavy. You couldn't really work in those layers, and that's what these markers allow you to do. And I think it's probably why I like them so much, is because it allows you to work in layers. I put down that skin color, and yet then I can go back again over it, and it darkens it on top of that color with the same color. I didn't even have to switch color. But if I wanted to go even with a darker shade of a brown, I can do that, and it basically, creates this beautiful, like, soft rendered look to it, and it's not these heavy lines that you'll get from that more opaque marker. And then the other things that I was using, that you can see on the side there, obviously pencil. That makes sense, right? I prefer using a 2H pencil when I'm drawing, not an HB. An HB tends to smudge a lot, and you don't get as fine a line. And especially when working with watercolors, I definitely want to work with a 2H, as not to get my paintbrushes dirty with an HB or a B. I mean, all those B leads, I feel like, are better for when you're just literally sitting and drawing in pencil, and just pencil, not color pencil. And then I have a couple of microns, I think, and then I have the Faber-Castell markers that are kind of like the microns, so similar, like fine tip felt markers in different nib sizes. And I have my Palomino pencil, which, again, that's a very soft pencil, and it's beautiful for drawing in just pencil. If you want to do some portraits or anything, if you want to draw anything, honestly, it's a wonderful pencil to draw with. It's very soft. The erasers are great on it too. As you can see, my eraser there is almost down, so you can actually buy the erasers to replace them. And then I have also one of my white markers, and that's I think it's a Uniball one. It's a Japanese marker. You can get them here. They sell, Uniball obviously is a brand that we're all very familiar with, and it's Japanese, and the white for it is great. I also use the Jelly Roll pens. I think those are from Sakura, another Japanese brand. Again, you can get them both on Amazon. Literally everything you can get on Amazon, which is really disturbing, but let's not go there. Let's keep talking art supplies. And then I have my kneaded eraser, and I have my pencil sharpener, which I tend to only use it really for my lead pencils and not my color pencils. I try not to. I use it though sometimes as a cheat. There's one thing that I did learn when I was in art school from a teacher, that so what happens when you use a sharpener, it tends to break the lead or the color pencil, the actual pencil part of it. So it's better to use a sharp edge, like an X-Acto knife. An X-Acto knife is actually quite perfect because you have an actual pen handle, right? Versus just some razor. But you can use a utility knife as well. And you shave off some of the wood first, and then you gently start shaving the tip of the pencil and get it as sharp as you want. And then also I realized I do have a couple of color pencils out, and they're my Prisma colors. I've had those color pencils since college. I always buy just new ones, for the colors that I'm missing, that I use the most. Obviously like white and black and some of the purples, and certain colors I tend to use more than others. So I'll end up buying those more often than not. And here you see me using the blue Prisma color. It's really nice. It works really well with these alcohol markers. You can go in and do the little details, or if you don't have a color, for example, I wanted a little bit of a darker blue, just slightly darker than the one that I was using with the markers, and this was really helpful to use the pencil instead, and it also helped me get those finer lines. So as you see, I pulled out my palette here. This is actually my acrylic gouache palette, and I grabbed a golden artist color paint, and this is actually interference blue fine, and I have interference violet fine too, but I used the blue here. It is a iridescent paint that is transparent, and it is slightly matte. It's pretty thin. It's kind of, I would say, in the middle, and it works really well for this stuff too. When I'm working with watercolors in my smaller books and stuff like that, I tend to use the watercolor iridescence, but I do love these. These are beautiful too. I've even used these on jewelry when I would make jewelry, to paint some of the copper over with it, and it looked, because it gave the copper interesting iridescence. It made the copper go from that more orangey color that copper has, that pinkish orange, to a more like pinkish violet color, and it was really beautiful. But I like to use a lot of the iridescence on the wings of the fairies, so I decided to use the interference color here. I didn't think of using the other iridescence that I like to use, which is the watercolor ones from, I think it's Fine Tech is one, and then the other one is Kuretake, which is a Japanese brand. The ones I got them in Japan, but they actually sell them here on Amazon as well, because a lot of the Japanese products are now being sold on Amazon. So I used it, I think, on not only the wings, but I used it here on the gloves, and I might have used a little bit on the actual headdress as well. I just wanted to give it that little bit of that little sparkle that fairies have. So when I've actually seen fairies with my actual eyes, they're always glimmering, shimmering, sparkling, and even when I see them in my meditations, their actual skin looks like it's made out of crystalline. It's stunning. It's truly stunning and ethereal. There's this idea of fairies being the original indigenous people of this planet, but in fact, and I only say this in fact because of the information I've gotten from my meditations, and also there's, I think, at least one or two other channelers that will talk about this. I think Wendy Kennedy is one of them, and maybe Nora Harold, because she has a couple of fairy guides. And they talk about this, like fairies actually had their own home planet. And that home planet was destroyed. And they were kind of scattered across the universe after that. And Earth is one of the closest looking and viable planets for them to be a part of, because fairies are intricately linked to nature, and it is their responsibility, their life path, to take care of the natural world, and it doesn't matter what planet they're on. And they're interdimensional beings, so they can kind of whiz in and whiz out of anywhere they want to go to. So anyway, back to the actual art supplies and drawing. Little sidetrack again, but we're talking about fairies, so I'm sure those of you who have a connection to fairy would be interested in hearing some of that stuff. If you're not, then let me know. If you are interested, I can definitely talk more about my experiences. And it's why I do this. It's why I love drawing them. And it's funny because I spent many years when I was younger painting angels instead of fairies. But they're within the same realm, which makes sense. But it never occurred to me to start painting fairies until much later in my life. I absolutely love them so much, like as if they were family. And I don't know, to me, they're kind of family. And let's see, what else do I want to talk to you about my art supplies, because that is kind of important here, since that's what we're showing. Oh, and the paper. I think I've talked about this before. So paper I use is actually Canson, and that's one of them. That's the one I used on this one. So Canson watercolor, actually it's called Canson Montval, Montval watercolor, cold press, and it is a block, and it is 140 pound 300 GSM, and this is a 9x12 one. and it comes with 15 sheets. It's French paper, actually. And then the other one I like to use too, and it's 100% cotton, and it's from Fluid 100, cold press finish as well, and 140 pound, 300 GSM. I have 9x12 block. I also have multiple smaller blocks to work on. And I love the cold press feel. It's funny because when I oil paint, I always worked on like hot press illustration board, or I like to use a very smooth wood canvas. But when I'm working in any wet media, and I would count markers as wet media, I prefer a cold press. It just has that nice toothiness that the color can really adhere to. And with the watercolor, it does like these wonderful, things that get stuck in the nooks and crannies, and then it moves around, and it does like really just natural things that happen with the reaction with the paper. And you don't need to get it as heavy as the 140 pound, but that's my preference, especially if you're planning to then sell these pieces, then you want to have a good quality. So I've already talked about this and complained about this about a dozen times. The Hahnemühle German notebooks that I got, the sketchbooks I got, the paper is super duper light. I forgot the weight of it. It almost feels like a 90. I don't think it's 90, but I don't know. It might be, actually. I don't remember what it was. I have to look it up. But I don't recommend this for anyone. I'm going to look into some other watercolor sketchbooks. I don't want to spend any more money right now on it because I have two from Hahnemühle. I should have just bought the one, but this happens to me all the time where I buy two of something, or I'm like, oh, I want the big and small, and then I get home and I try it out and then I'm not happy with it. So take my advice, my friends, and do yourselves a favor and do not buy the Hahnemühle because it's very expensive and it's not good paper. So let's see what paper I can find a really good sketchbook watercolor paper. So I actually have a doctor's appointment next Friday and I have to go into New York City. Since I don't live in New York City anymore, I live right outside of New York City, about an hour and a half in the Hudson Valley. I'm going to go to the art supply store. Yay, fun time. So I'll probably take you guys there with me so you can check it out. But I want to see what other watercolor notebooks or sketchbooks they have and see if I can find one with a better quality. So I just want to interject here for a second. Look how I'm sharpening my pencils here. I'm using a blade instead, an X-Acto knife to be exact. Again, it makes a huge difference. It helps your leads not break as easily. I don't know what it is when you sharpen them that tends to break the tips off your color pencils, especially. Not so much a regular pencil, but a color pencil. It tends to break, and I think it might be because of the softness of the lead. But then again, you can say that an HB pencil has a soft lead and it doesn't break when you use a sharpener for the most part. Anyway, back to the paper. So I'm talking about watercolor paper here because I do use some painting in here and I'm doing a lot of watercolor, and because I do a lot of mixed media, I find that watercolor paper, especially heavy watercolor paper, stands up to it quite a bit. Now, the best watercolor paper out there, and it is professional artist quality, is Arches. I have a very large block, an 18x24 block that actually 18x24, I think it might even be bigger than that. I actually don't remember now. I have to look at it, but I think it's 18 by 24. Anyway, it's quite large. I've only used it for a few paintings, but it is truly one of the most unmatched watercolor papers. It's the best. It is literally the best paper. So I do love the other watercolor papers that I've used, the Fluid 100. I really love those, and they're 100% cotton, which is so important in watercolor. So that is something that you definitely want to make sure it's your paper is 100% cotton. It makes the sizing of paper and the water retention and like that it won't like warp and buckle much better, and the absorption of water is better when you have 100% cotton. And I actually just bought a mixed media paper that I'm eager to try with my markers. Again, I bought a large tablet because I want to make some larger pieces. There's a few things in my art journal actually that I'm thinking of turning into larger artworks. But I'm curious as how it'll handle some of the markers and watercolors and all that. I prefer the watercolor paper so far in my entire career of being an artist to do a lot of my mixed media stuff because there is a lot of wet media. Marker also really shines on the watercolor paper, I found, and I really love it. A lot of people who work with markers tend to use, I think, hot press, so very smooth paper. And that used to be my go-to for a lot of things. I used to go to a lot of hot press stuff. And I think if I was going to do certain media, I definitely would stay with hot press. And I think I said before, when I'm painting acrylic gouache, I definitely go for a very smooth wood surface. So your equivalent of a hot press, but in wood. And I think this really works well with some medias, especially like oil and acrylics. But when you're talking about watercolors and markers and gouache, I think that the watercolor paper holds up really well. And then if you want to glue things into, it holds up really well too. So, so I hope this little bit of information helps you with your art supplies as well. And I'll leave you here to finish watching this video, and I'll check in with you at the end.
Tell me I'm missing you already.
tell me I'm missing me already. 익숙하게 조심스럽게 부드럽게 아슬아슬하게 닿을 듯하게 굴지 말고 조금 더 솔직해지면 되잖아. You're right. 볼륨을 켜 좀 더 가까이 붙어 우리들만 알아들을 수 있는 거리로 네 숨에 닿으면 내 손끝이 Don't tell me I'm missing me already. 익숙하게 조심스럽게 부드럽게 아슬아슬하게 닿을 듯하게 굴지 말고 조금 더 솔직해지면 되잖아. You're right. 볼륨을 켜 좀 더 가까이 붙어 우리들만 알아들을 수 있는 거리로 네 숨에 닿으면 내 손끝이 Don't tell me I'm missing me already. 익숙하게 조심스럽게 부드럽게 아슬아슬하게 닿을 듯하게 굴지 말고 조금 더 솔직해지면 되잖아. You're right. 볼륨을 켜 좀 더 가까이 붙어 우리들만 알아들을 수 있는 거리로 네 숨에 닿으면 내 손끝이 Don't tell me I'm missing me already. 익숙하게 조심스럽게 부드럽게 아슬아슬하게 닿을 듯하게 굴지 말고 조금 더 솔직해지면 되잖아. You're right. 볼륨을 켜 좀 더 가까이 붙어 우리들만 알아들을 수 있는 거리로 네 숨에 닿으면 내 손끝이 Don't tell me I'm missing me already. 익숙하게 조심스럽게 부드럽게 아슬아슬하게 닿을 듯하게 굴지 말고 조금 더 솔직해지면 되잖아.
All right, dear ones, I hope that this was a great video for you to watch. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope that I could give you some, helpful information on art supplies and you enjoyed my little fairy. I love her. I think she came out pretty sweet. And I hope you liked also my studio changes. I'm actually really excited to share even more changes that are happening in my studio. And I will see you soon. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more stuff from me, please hit the subscribe. And also, if you're interested in more content, I am over on Patreon, and the link's down in the description and in my bio. I actually will share a lot of different things on my Patreon. We have a weekly update on what's going on with me. I like sort of like a backstage situation. Also, within the 3 tiers, I have different benefits for all members. I have some wonderful printables of my art and of little things I create for my wonderful patrons. And I also have backstage videos, special Patreon videos. You get a lot more than you're getting here on YouTube, but I'm happy to have you here on YouTube. Your support means everything to me. So please help me out by subscribing, and I'll see you all soon. Have a magical, magical week.